going to stand on the stage. My name is Alicia Andrews, and I am the current chair of the Oklahoma Democratic Party. So when I ran in 2019, I was the secretary of the Tulsa County Democratic Party. And the thing that made me run was that I was the secretary of the second largest county in the state, and I didn't feel like I was hearing from the state. In my tenure as secretary of Tulsa County, we ran a candidate for every seat that was available. So I know how to recruit. So I went to the state with this grand plan. There were a lot of things that I thought I was going to get done. I had this gigantic plan. I was ready because I kept seeing things that I didn't think were right. But when I got there, I found out we were $100,000 in debt. And it doesn't matter what your plans are, because nobody will help you when you're in debt. Not just that you can't pay the printer for your fundraiser, which is a thing I actually ran into. It's not that you just can't pay rent. I got kicked out of our space in my first week of being chair. You can't get anything done unless you have money. So what I did was I focused on my first term of getting us out of debt. You can't do anything if you owe everybody money, right? I focused on getting us out of debt. And I got us out of debt. Legally, I got us out of debt. Right? Then I could sit down and figure out what to do. So in 14, 16, 18, we lost legislative seats in ways that you cannot even imagine. I mean, we lost seats 5 at a time, 8 at a time, 6 at a time. We were losing seats. And it was not just because the Democratic Party was dysfunctional, and sadly it was, and I don't talk negative about the people who came before me, but what I will say is that the party carried debt for 20 plus years before I got there. The party was just in debt, and people got used to us being in debt, right? By the time I got there, we were so far in debt that it was ugly. By the time I got there, we were losing seats. We were hemorrhaging seats in a way that, made Democrats feel beleaguered, like we didn't have a chance and we didn't have hope. So in my first election cycle, I was focused on getting us out of debt. I was focused on finding us a place to be in the party. Because like I said, I get elected on Sunday, and on that Thursday, the landlord called me and said, hey, you gotta move because y'all haven't been paying rent. So I had to tend to the things that were important to just surviving, right? I was told by the prior chair, I think we're about $20,000 in debt. In my mind, I was like, okay, I can come up with $20,000. We can make that work. Well, it turned out to be much more. So I had to figure out debt. I had to figure out a place for the party to be. And I had to figure out what are we going to do with our elected officials. So I sat down with the House Minority Leader at the time, sat down and said, I have a good relationship with the electeds in Tulsa. I'd like to extend that statewide now that I'm the statewide chair. She laughed in my face, laughed. And I said, whoa. And she goes, everybody says that. Let's see if that happens. Well, right now, I am proud to say that I have regular conversations with our elected officials. I have started a kitchen cabinet where we met 2 weeks ago with our elected officials to tell them, these are what our plans are, this is how much money we have, and this is what we're planning to do. So that not only am I talking to them about messaging, am I talking to them about, waiting and having the meetings about what seats are we going after, what are our target seats, what are your target seats, what are you going to spend money on, what do you expect the party to spend money on. We started a kitchen cabinet where we're saying these are the things that the party is doing, right? And I will tell you that I was told, I'm glad you're doing this because I never get called unless y'all are asking me for money. Mm-hmm. So we're having the conversations about what is it that you'd like to see the party doing, right? And so we're having those conversations. So we've identified targets for 2026, right? I have this list that I'm maintaining of seats that we're chasing in 2026 because, as Stacy said, and I want to be clear that I count Kevin and Stacy as friends, right? I have a relationship with them, and so this isn't, a big fight. These are people who have an idea of what it is that they think that they want to do with the party, and this is somebody who knows what has to happen with the party. So I've been talking with our elected officials. I've been talking with our donor table about how do we gain more seats? How do we expand our map? And how do we get some statewide seats? We haven't had statewide seats in forever. How do we get there? And so we've been having a conversation. So Kevin and Stacy mentioned year-round campaign. We absolutely need a year-round campaign. And we are finally there, right? Because you...
Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
I definitely see an issue with the presidential race. We are not using social media, free social media, and free YouTube and things like that to get our stuff to the younger people.
Okay, I will talk about that. I will talk about that. So campaign everywhere, campaign all the time. So we partnered with Contest Every Race in this cycle that are starting right now, meeting with county parties and funding county parties. Because that's what has to happen. All of this stuff costs money, right? I can only raise so much money, but I've tripled our fundraising in my time as being chair. But we've got to figure out a way to get the money and get the support and get the training down to our counties and precincts. And so we, second state of all the states, have partnered with Contest Every Race. And they have grants where they're walking county parties through, this is what you need to do, right, to run races. This is what you need to do to set up a campaign all the time. So we've partnered with them, but we also have a plan where we're going to, campaign all year round. That was on my first list in 2019 because I was a staffer on the coordinated campaign by the ODP in 2018, and I saw what it could be, and that was on my list. Can't do it if you don't have money. You can't do it if you don't have money. And so I keep talking about money because not enough people do. It's great to have ideas, and it's great to wonder why we haven't done it and where have we been and all of that kind of stuff. And the answer is all of this stuff costs money. So when COVID hit, right, I did a daily live on Facebook that ran to Facebook, my Facebook page, the party's Facebook page, and our YouTube page. I did it. It was about 15 minutes, and it was what is going on in politics in Oklahoma today, right? And I had a pretty big reach. People from Jamaica. I had a pretty big reach, and I stopped doing it because I needed to focus on getting the work done at the party. And you think, I'm the chair, but why didn't I have somebody else to do it? Well, the reality is that cycle after cycle, as I'm raising money and trying to run campaigns, cycle after cycle, the donor class, and quite frankly, a lot of the legislators were saying to me, we need to not we need to shut down campaigns the week after elections. And you need to lay off staff the week after elections. We can't afford to do that. And when the people with the checkbooks say that they're not going to give you money, rather than let people think that they have a job and think that they're going to get paid, we went ahead and let our staffing do this. Well, I was incredibly intentional in 2024 and made sure that I raised enough money to keep the staff. I raised enough money to keep the staff so that we can do the things, so that we can do communications. And we've upgraded our communications staff, and we've upgraded our communications plans. But that also came with a price tag. And so we've updated our communications. We've updated, it used to take three days to get banned, which is our database. It used to take 3 days to get it. Now it takes 30 minutes if you filled out all of your paperwork, right? And that's because we've maintained staff and we've trained staff. In my time as chair, we've done at least one, and in some years two, campaign academies where we literally are bringing folks in, and we have 3 tracks, right? Party, candidate, and volunteer tracks that we have where we're training folks to do this work. And we have moved that training, we moved it all over the state, because as I was saying earlier, one group doesn't need to be the group who has to drive 4 hours every time there's a training, right?
That's right.
So we've done the training in Norman, and we've done it in Midwest City, and we've done it in Tulsa, and we've done it in Oklahoma City, and we're moving it around so that when you think, I think I want to learn how to do fundraising, you don't think, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to drive all the way to Oklahoma City every single time, right? We've been moving it all around because when I ran in 19, the crux of my speech, and it has not changed, is that Oklahoma is an entire state and not just a city. And so that doesn't mean that I only care about Oklahoma County, Tulsa County, and Norman, where we have our blue strongholds. I did a bus tour where I literally slept in an RV for a week so that we could travel all over the state right? And talk to folks all over the state in smaller communities, because that was a sign of, we recognize that you're there and we want to meet with you and we want to commune with you, because it is important that we reach out to the entire state and we make sure that people know. And the reality of it is we're never going to win governor, we're never going to win senator, we're never going to win labor commissioner until we beef up our rural counties. We can't win them on Tulsa and Oklahoma City alone.
That's right.
We have to beef up our rural counties, and I know that to be the case. And so I have a plan, right, that builds on the infrastructure that I put in place, that I've had to kind of blood, sweat, and tears, get us out of debt, build things, make sure that we have the money, and that I don't come up with a plan that is not sustainable. We have a plan, right? Next week, you should be getting a list. Are you running again? Are you running for re-election? Whoever's going to be the chair, you'll be getting a list that says these are the seats that are coming available in your county. These are the seats that are going to be on the ballot in 2026 in your county. Help us recruit for those seats, because I know how to get to Osage County. There's a tip of Osage County about 15 minutes from my house. I know how to get to Osage County. I know how to get to Choctaw County. I know how to get to Guymon. I know how to get to these places, but I don't know who owns the feed store. I don't know who the soccer coach is, and those are the kinds of people that we're going to have to run. And so I'm asking all the counties, help me recruit, because we've got to run people all over our map. We've got to run people all over the map, because not only will we elect some people that people don't think that we will, because we have people serving on Lincoln who never got a vote because we didn't challenge their seats. So we've got to challenge more seats. But it has to be a team approach, right? I'm going to need Osage County, although we already have somebody running for Senate. I'm going to need Osage County to help me find people to run. I'm going to need all of these counties to help me find people to run, because that's how we expand our map. And what we're going to do is we're not going to just say run, thank you for running, and let it go. We're running a statewide coordinated campaign, a true statewide coordinated campaign. I've been involved now in a coordinated campaign as a staffer. I've been involved as a coordinated campaign on a national level. I've been involved in a coordinated campaign that I led. Statewide, countywide, I've been involved. And now I know what it's going to take. And so we have 2 tiers of this coordinated campaign. That's for the one tier for the people who have professionals who have run before, and another tier for the people who, thank God, are running, but they have no idea what they're doing. So that we're going to help them through this process, right? We're going to help them through this process and not just stick them out there and say, thank you for running, right? We're going to help them, because thank you for running isn't enough. We have to say to them, you're 3 weeks in. You should have knocked this many doors, right? How's your fundraising? We have bulk discounts on this one. We've negotiated a bulk discount for this. That's how we help candidates, right? We deal in reality, and we deal with the facts, and we tell them exactly how to do it. And I can do that because I actually ran for office, right? I know what it takes, and I know how lonely it can be to run for office in a place where people don't think you should run, in a place where people wish you wouldn't run. I ran for office for my city council, not necessarily because I woke up burning to be on the city council, but because nobody else was running. And we had a mayor's race coming, and nobody was campaigning in my district. And so I put my name on the ballot, and I went out and knocked thousands of doors. I knocked thousands of doors, and I went out and did the work, and I know what it's like to be a candidate now, right? And our current mayor, thank goodness, took my district. He won my district, and I like to think that I had something to do with that. So this isn't about like pie in the sky. This isn't about ideas. This is about really what does it take. I have national relationships with other state party chairs, and I can ask the ones who are successful, what are you doing? Help me figure that out for my state. I can watch the ones who are experimenting and seeing what doesn't work, right? And then I don't have to do that. I don't have to try that. When somebody says, you know what we should do, I can say, yeah, they tried that here. It costs a lot of money, and they've tweaked it and they've done this. So I have the national contacts, I have the experience, and I have a real plan. I have a real plan, and I still have a fire in my belly, right? I do this because I care about Oklahoma. Yes, sir.
When you say the term coordinated campaign,
Yes, sir.
when I was a state representative, coordinated campaign meant coordinated campaign for just the national elections. not across the state.
That doesn't help us.
Doesn't help us.
That does not help us, right? I'm here to get Democrats elected in Oklahoma. That's what I care about, is getting Democrats elected. I care about improving electoral outcomes for where I live, where my mama lives. That's what I care about. And so when I say a coordinated campaign, I am talking starting at the state level and reaching down, which is not a thing that we've done, but we tried it in Tulsa this year and it worked. I'm talking about state level, municipal, and then congressional. And I've been having conversations with the people who have declared to me that they're running on a federal level. And so it's statewide, it's state house and state senate, it's city council, it is congressional and senate and governor, right? That's what we're talking about in a coordinated campaign.
Okay.
We can't leave out the feds because
Well, I know that.
Because
but what I'm saying
everything
is
counts.
the history of the state party has been nothing but national elections.
No, Daryl, you're right. That's what I'm saying. That was the campaign that I was involved in as a staffer. And I watched people who were struggling in Tulsa, candidates who were struggling in Tulsa, including the person who was running for my House seat, struggling and having to figure it out by themselves while the state was doing this thing over here.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So I have been involved enough that I can see what doesn't work, what did work, what could have worked if we tweaked it a little bit better. But we're not running a coordinated campaign just for Congress, right? I care about what happens here, right? Because I live here.
I hope so.
And so my coordinated campaign plan is, down to the city clerks, the county clerks who want to be involved, all the way up to Congress and Senate, right?
Okay.
And everything in between, right? Because I've seen it not work. I've seen folks think that they were part of a coordinated campaign, pay money in and get no help. I've seen that. And that's why I say I've been involved in all manner of coordinated campaign. And so I know what works now. I know what works and I'm ready to implement that. That is campaign everywhere, right? And campaign all the time.
Sorry.
Right, and so that's really the big things that I'm bringing, right? A coordinated campaign. I think you guys heard yesterday that I have a funder out of Tulsa that I chased for 5 years. 5 years, and I finally convinced him that the party is moving in the right direction. He called me up and said, hey, I want to help. We sat down and he said, what do you need help with? And I gave him a list of things, and he said, I will help you with targeted voters registration. So he's raising, by the middle of May, this is going to happen before convention, by the middle of May, we're going to start doing targeted voters registration. So let's talk about voters registration. When I was elected, we had 738,000 registered Democrats. We are down to about 656, right? 656,000. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. We've done some of this, there's been purge, there's been blah, blah, blah. But the reality is we Democrats have lost registration. I'm not going to pretend like it's anything other than that. We have lost registration. But here's the thing. In 2020, Joe Biden got 499,000 votes from Oklahoma. In 2024, Kamala Harris got 498,000 votes from Oklahoma. What that says to me is that even though we've lost all these numbers, we haven't lost Democrat participation. The people that have fallen off of our rolls or unregistered or whatever the reason, they weren't voting with us anyway. So I'm not in a huge hurry to mourn those voters. I am in a hurry to go get the ones back who want to vote with us. And that's what we're doing with this targeted voters registration, right? They weren't voting. And hanging on to them so that we could have them, I don't get it. So what we need to do is we need to look at the 656 who are registered with us and talk to them. And so I developed a communication plan by traveling the state and asking people what they cared about. What they cared about was funded public school, guaranteed to us by our Constitution, access to affordable health care, and economic opportunity. And in this part of the state, clean water, right? Because it's also regional, right? In this part of the state, it was clean water. And so that's what the platform is based on. That is what we talk about everywhere we go. Now, we have to tweak it because clean water means something different in Oklahoma County than it means in Ottawa County. But everybody cares about these things, not because Alicia says that that's what they care about, but because we went out and we talked to people. And we're right now running a second deal where we are paying a service to call people in who aren't voting with us. And they're paying them to come in and give their opinion. Why don't you vote? What would it take to get you to vote? what would it take to get you to vote as a Democrat? Right? So that we can have that information as a feedback loop. So that's what we're talking about in 2026. But instead of us sitting around in a room, you know, us at a central committee or us who consider ourselves to be party leaders, we need to be talking to regular voters. And we need to be talking to regular voters in a way that they can hear us, right? They don't have to hear it from us. If they sit in a room that they think is nonpartisan and just tell the truth, that information is more valuable to us, and that's what we're seeking. So we're doing the work that it takes. We're not theorizing, we're actually doing the work that it takes based on the connections that we've made. So those are the things that I hope that you hear and understand that we're trying to do. I had a bunch of ideas when I ran in 2019. I had a bunch of ideas. I've been incredibly successful in getting a lot of them done, but I haven't been able to get them all done because we've just now gotten to a financial position where I can hire what I want to hire, and I can put some of these things in place. Because it's one thought to have an idea and to have a plan, but you got to be able to afford it, and you got to be able to sustain it. And I will say, with my history of tripling our fundraising, right? And regardless of what people tell you, we don't have big money donors hanging out in Oklahoma. I don't go to, you know, this big guy and this big guy and this big guy and fund the party. I get every dollar, $1 at a time, by calling people or by having events and saying the things that people need to hear and answering the questions that people need answered for them to support the party. So that's what we're doing. Yeah, I think that's it. Anybody have any other questions?